It's Jeff Sims' world. We're just living in it.
You are Locked On Huskers, your daily podcast on the Nebraska Cornhuskers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey gang, DP here, Locked On Huskers. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. Welcome to football season, especially in the Heartlands. Greatly appreciate you making this your first stop and watch each and every single day. Want to thank the folks from LinkedIn. Mark Onwater, let them know about LinkedIn.
Thank you, DP. This episode of Locked On Huskers is brought to you by LinkedIn. Now, these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. It's super easy to do. If you are watching this on a computer or on your phone, your computer skills are good enough to create a LinkedIn Jobs posting. You add your job and then the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you are hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. And as you know, making that right hire makes all the difference. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. Now, LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. DP, back to you.
Hey, gang, we're going to take a journey through, just spent a couple of days at the Big Ten Media Days, and I wanted to share some of that insight over the course of this particular episode. A couple of things jumped out to me, and I want to share those. One, conversation with Trev Alberts, conversation with Matt Rhule, conversation with the three players that were representatives for the University of Nebraska. And it was pretty impressive to sit with each of them because each of them gave insight. So over the course of this episode, we'll talk about the conversation with Matt Rhule. We'll talk about the conversations with Jeff Sims, which is kind of an interesting thing that you find out about. And then, of course, Ethan Piper and Luke Reimer. Let's start with the head coach, because what we figured out in the sit down was that he is mission driven. And by that, I mean, Matt Rhule spoke specifically about reputation and respect. And from a coaching standpoint, that resonates with me as a standard setter, that you have to have, one, respect of self, respect for the program, respect for the brand. And it's not always easy for a new coach to come in and set a standard that young people will follow, especially people who were in the program before Matt Rhule was. So there's certain things that Matt Rhule has to coach into existence, and then there are things he has to reset. He has to identify and then reset and then rebrand. And over the course of past episodes, we've been talking about the branding that is Nebraska football, and that Matt Rhule has to be respectful of the brand as its past and culture, and then the brand as he wants it to be under his watch and under his guidance. And through all of this, what Matt Rhule said was, we have to earn this. And I think it was ownership in, he was saying that not only the coaches, not only Matt Rhule, but all of the coaches have to earn respect. They have to earn respect. They have to earn respect of the fan base. They have to earn respect for each other. They have to earn the respect of the coaches. And then subtly, as he sat at a table with two other Husker greats, who he had to look in the eye and say, I have to honor you. He had to honor what he put in with Amon Green and Jay Foreman and Rashawn Jackson, that those conversations and that thinking was important to the success of Nebraska football. And for the players who came through, and we'll go player by player, later in this episode. But I wanted to be clear. Matt Rhule made a point that where Nebraska is currently is not good enough, and that he was aware that there was a standard that was set by those national championship teams. He was going to be respectful of those championships, but then he also had to reset that as a gauge for what Nebraska football should be as a program and as a culture. And to do so, he has to set a standard that needs to be consistent, it needs to be met, and then it needs to be honored. In order for Nebraska to be happy with itself, it's got to have the respect of its opponents as well. That bad football is never going to be acceptable for Nebraska. And now under his watch, he has to make sure that, listen, we do all of the small things right. We do all of the basic things exceptionally well. And we do the basic, simple stuff consistently well. And heading into camp, the first couple of days, it's an opportunity to see in full what Matt Rhule intends for this program to be, how he wants it to work, how he wants it to operate, and how he wants it to function, so that come August 31st, they're able to execute. That he needed to change his focus from the overall view, the big picture view, to simply beat Minnesota. And in order for them to work from day to day, from drill to drill, from meeting to meeting, and from film study to film study, that they have to focus on beating Minnesota, which is no easy feat. It's no easy trick. I mean, PJ Fleck, for all of his quirks and all of his machinations, he's found some success in Minnesota. And as the first target and as the first meter and for Nebraska football, they've got to look at it and understand that they have to look back and be respectful of it. But in looking forward and looking at Minnesota, that Matt Rhule and his coaching staff works from in full purpose of beating Minnesota by honoring the best of Nebraska football. And they have to work at a level that we know exists, because you have the proof that good things can happen for Nebraska football. It's already happened. But then with a new group of players, a new group of coaches, the fan base who has gone through so much, Husker Nation has gone through so much over the course of the last few years. All of Matt Rhule's policy, all of his mission statements, it's very important, and Husker Nation is paying attention to it. And now, in day 3 of practices, you now get to see that some standards have been set, some have not been met, and there have been consequences for not meeting said standard. And it started at the top. I mean, we're talking about a coach stepping down. We're talking about a team leader, the second leading tackler in football, not only being suspended, but now in the transfer portal. So there's lots to talk about for Matt Rhule. And what he talked about in Indianapolis was the new regime. Yes, Nebraska football has that new coach smell. And with that, there are some perks and benefits. But what Matt Rhule identifies and understands more than anything else is that the results will show. Execution is mandatory. And now they have 4 weeks to get prepared for PJ Fleck in Minnesota. So standard set. When we come back to Locked On Huskers, I want to talk about Jeff Sims and his sit down and some of the things that you find out about the young man who will, in fact, go into the practices as a leader of this Nebraska football team and of this program. More Locked On Huskers. Hey gang, Big B here for Locked On Huskers. Thank you once again for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. Talking about Matt Rhule and the Big Ten media days, I now want to jump into some of what we found out about the players. And it's important to realize that in the sit down, you're getting there's a bridge in questions that allow you to find out some authentic things about the young people that we cover. And while there's a ton of responsibility for these young men to sit in front of media and share information, some of it that's been programmed into them to be shared, and then some that, quite frankly, you reach into personal space and get them to confide and connect and then share some information. But here's what we found out about Jeff Sims at Big Ten Media Days. And it's just to show you, to give you some insight about why reporters tend to believe what they believe. You see some things behind the scenes that allow you more information. We call it comfortable movement, and to see how people move athletically in a space, how they move emotionally and mentally in the space, and then how they handle conversations, how they handle friction. With Jeff Sims, what we found was this. As the young man sat with us and then held court, Jeff Sims believes, and it's important to circle that word. Jeff Sims believes that he was sent here to do the best for Nebraska, that he was sent here to change the way the quarterback position was thought of. He fully expects that the burden of Nebraska football will be placed on his shoulders and connected to his right arm and to his legs. And he's fully set to make this a successful season. There is a confidence. And I don't mean arrogance. I mean there is a confidence and a belief that he possesses everything in his makeup to do all the things that Marcus Satterfield and Matt Rhule are going to ask for from the quarterback position. And this is the Big Ten. So let's be clear. He understands the physical requirements of playing quarterback in the Big Ten, especially in a new system, new offensive coordinator, new teammates. But in his physique and his posture was a confidence and a security that not everybody has. And this is comparing him to the other quarterbacks who sat down with us from the Big Ten. That Jeff Sims, in a room full of talented quarterbacks, belonged. He belonged in the space. At least he believed he belonged. And then in his messaging, leadership is a shared element. Your ability to share the space while directing. And Jeff Sims spoke so highly, so frequently, so kindly about his teammates that in all of his successes and all the perks and benefits of being a quarterback at the University of Nebraska, that he also spoke to his teammates and that he is not only going to lean on him, but he's going to lean for them, that he's going to play for the linemen. He wants to be there for the receivers to help them achieve. He wants to be there to cheer. He said, the loudest cheerleader for the running back room, no matter who's going to be back there. And that he spoke of the big three. When we talk about Ramir Johnson, you talk about Anthony Grant, you talk about Gabe Ervin. He spoke of them in such glowing terms and then absolutely raved about the offensive line and said, listen, this is a group that not only do I want to play behind, but I feel safe playing behind. And he used the word safe, which is for quarterback speak, especially a quarterback that is going to play the game physically. He's going to put his body on the line. And Nebraska fans, when they think of that, some of them will cringe because the recent history is that, Nebraska quarterbacks don't make it through the year, whether it's through fragility, whether it's through reckless play, reckless abandon, whatever it is. Well, Jeff Sims has put in the work in the offseason. His body he doesn't look like a quarterback. He looks like a football player who happens to play quarterback. And that's just the physical part. The cerebral part is what got to me, because he spoke from a place of faith, but he also spoke from a place of, I know what needs to be done for Nebraska to be successful this season. I know the players, and I know what players I want to lean on in certain situations, and I have to play for them. And if I play for them, I will have my own personal success. That if I do the things that are good for the team, I will have my personal success. And for a coach and a player, you understand that, wow, you can be led by that player. See, good things happen when you are led by a player who stands up and says, listen, not only am I working to be successful for myself, but more importantly, I'm working for the success of the team. I'm making better team decisions because that's what's required. That's what's needed. And he spoke in loud voice about being the responsibility of being the quarterback at the University of Nebraska and all the things that are required from it. And he admired and respected the fact that Matt Rhule and Marcus Satterfield chose him. They chose him. And being from outside of the system, to find out that within the system, somebody at a high level thinks you're the right person to do the things that are the most important things that can be asked of a football player at the University of Nebraska, and then say, I'm going to honor that and I'm going to work from that. Well, that's Jeff Sims. That's Jeff Sims. And sidebar, saw a message that his mom spoke on. We kind of glowingly told the young man that, listen, you have new family in Lincoln, Nebraska. Not sure you're aware, but you do. And that his family was in great appreciation for it. So there's a connection for Jeff Sims. There is a family, a network of people who were there to support the young man. And I think for all that want to hear heading into this camp and getting the work done, that Jeff Sims will put in the work. Here's the thing. To know that your quarterback, your leader, is going to put in the work required. He's not just going to say it. He's actually going to put in the work. And that from his mindset, his belief, and his wants are all about team success. That's a great start for a camp. And the Huskers are in good hands and on great legs when it comes to Jeff Sims. We'll throw it a break. When we come back, we'll talk about Ethan Piper and Luke Reimer and close out this edition of Locked On Huskers. Hey, gang, DP here. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. Appreciate you hanging out with us. And now we're in full season. So just going forward, to understand that we're going to pump out about 20 of these a month just to get them to you on a consistent basis. Lots going on, but we're trying to get all the information out to you and have these conversations. And it's been pretty insightful. To be around the players and to be around the some of the guys from around the Big Ten, and in future episodes we're going to talk about some of the players and coaches that we talked to at Indianapolis at Big Ten Media. With Ethan Piper, there was some question about, okay, of all the players to choose to send to Big Ten Media Days, why Ethan Piper? And when you sit with Ethan, what you find out is this. Ethan Piper cares. He absolutely cares. He cares about the process. He cares about the work. He cares about his teammates. He cares about the University of Nebraska and the football program. The moment he starts to speak in such absolute radiant terms about the guys that he's going to line up with across the offensive line, the guys that he's working against on the defensive line and defensive front, for him to talk about the guys who are going to run behind him and the guys who are going to block beside him, gave me hope that, yeah, Ethan Piper has grown into, and I want to be sure in saying that he has grown into and matured into an authentic big level Big Ten conference offensive lineman. He didn't have the look or the swagger 2 years ago. His walk is different. His chest is broader and it sticks out more. His chin is up. He can look you in the eye and tell you how much something matters, which wasn't always the case and hasn't always been the case. for players at Nebraska recently. Ethan Piper talked in full terms of the responsibility of being a Nebraska football leader. And he was proud to do it. He was asking for it. He was seeking the responsibility of being a leader on this football team and within this program. And then also trying to honor what's required of the folks who get the microphone for the University of Nebraska and the people that that Matt Rhule chose to speak for him, about him, and around him at Big Ten Media Days. Ethan Piper, he looks different. He looks different. And I say that in every in full, that as a man, he looks different. His body type, his body is different. His posture is different. The look in his eyes is a little different. He has matured into a full Big Ten conference of offensive linemen, and that's important. On the other side, sitting with Luke Reimer, it's been a long journey for Luke. And it's taken several bumps along the way, battered, bruised, but still consistent in his production. What from the mouth of Luke Reimers, he believes that they have the pieces. And this is a guy who's been through the Big Ten jungle. He's been in it and he's gone through it. But Luke, speaking of Nick Henrich and speaking of MJ Sherman and speaking of Ty Robinson and the defensive backs behind him, Luke went into great detail to say that they have the pieces to be successful. And he spoke from knowledge. He spoke from recent history that, listen, I've faced Michigan, Ohio State. I know what's required. I know what it's like. And I know what was missing then. And he says, it's just different now. It feels different. Matt Rhule echoed that it just seems like this is a group that likes each other enough to play for each other all the time and not just some of the time when it's convenient. I'll let that one marinate for you because I just want you to understand when the players and the coaches tell you that it hasn't always been about team in the recent past and that this year's group has chosen out loud and on purpose to be about team rather than self. That is a good statement to turn your eyes towards when it comes to this camp. So again, we're 4 weeks away from beat Minnesota. We'll take the journey together here on Locked On Huskers. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. And until tomorrow, when we come back, we'll see you tomorrow, but we'll close today with the 3 words we love so much. Go Big Red.